Our wildest dreams are coming true, Jack. It's fantasy football, but with brands. Let's talk about it.
12 years ago at this time, was like, hey, I have this idea that I want to, basically try and put together like a website or a way for my friends to play fantasy sports with the Super Bowl ads.
Fantasy football, the way you score points obviously is you draft players, and then those players earn points based on like yards or touchdowns, etc. Right? So obviously advertising creative is a little more subjective, right? So how do we get a score for that? Well, what we do is we kind of adopted sort of like a Rotten Tomatoes model. So every brand gets a audience score, which is basically like the USA Today ad meter, which I think is like the most popular, well-known way that Super Bowl ads are ranked. So we use that as like 50% of the score. That's the audience metric. And then the critic metric is basically an industry panel where we do the same thing, but with actual industry veterans and pros. So then we basically take those two scores, and that forms the score for every brand. In fantasy brands, it operates more like daily fantasy for the fantasy sickos who know what I'm talking about here. Basically there's a price for every brand, and you have a salary cap that you can spend. So you have to decide, am I going to splurge and spend like 35% of my budget on Bud Light, or am I going to try to find value in other territories?
From last year's scoring, what was the biggest surprise? What was maybe a sleeper brand that ended up exceeding expectations and scoring a high score?
I think last year one of the brands that demonstrated the greatest value was Totino's Pizza Rolls. That was a $20 brand, which I would say is like an average cost. The highest brands end up being around like $35, $40.
For the $35 to $40 brands, is that based off historicals, how they performed in Super Bowls in the past?
Exactly. We use a proprietary algorithm.
Of course.
Is my gut instinct here. You get a good sense of like, Doritos is going to have a crotch shot that's going to kill it in the USA Today ad meter, but like, maybe the muckety mucks, the critics aren't going to be as excited about that. So you're looking for something that can make both sides happy.
For the people listening, how can they get involved?
Go to playfantasybrands.com. That's where we got the game. The draft opens February 2nd, the Monday before the Super Bowl. If you want to get notified, you can sign up for our newsletter to get updates, and then on February 2nd, the week of the Super Bowl, that's when you can go and you can pick your team right on the website.
There's a non-zero chance that Breaking and Entering will be operating an underground betting ring around this.